Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Strucco, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome into Sons of UCF Live. Adam, Mr. Matt Dolan says 27 weeks until the start of the 2025 UCF football season. At fifth quarter, UCF 189 short days until the start of the season. Of course, we're not talking football this week. Ticketgate. How are you?
I haven't heard anything about this Ticketgate thing. I'm looking forward to learning more, Trace. I am well. We are rested and we are ready to bring you a fantastic show tonight, including what I believe is some live coverage we're going to go through, Trace.
That's right. Why don't we begin our show with UCF baseball firmly in control of Missouri at John Juliano Park, and that's where we join our man, Nick Williams. Nick, what's going on at the park?
Oh, well, the Knights are up big right now, 7-1 against our first SEC opponent, Missouri. Andrew Williamson, he's already got a home run this game. Andrew Sundin, 3 RBIs. Matt Saucer, right off the gate. I mean, he had 4 strikeouts throughout 4 innings. So Knights are looking great. We're continuing that win streak. Actually, I don't want to jinx anything so far. It is. There's one out. There's one out in the top of the ninth, but it looks like we got this under control.
Well, I tell you what, we'd have to stay with you if the Knights give up 6 runs here in the top of the ninth. Nick, we know you have post game as well. We appreciate you joining us live here with the Sons of UCF.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for having me. Can't wait. Great show at Sons of UCF. Post-game reactions coming up very soon.
Thanks, Nick.
Right, Nick Williams at John Juliano Park. Part of our big team coverage. We got an Emptiness Michael out there as well. Andrew Gregg is part of the baseball coverage for the Suns. What did you say right before we went on? We got like 17.
There's like 9 people at baseball. Like when baseball is going on, our Twitter feed is just like, I can't even keep up because I got everyone tweeting at me that they're tweeting at somebody else. I can't even keep up, but I like things that are good, and winning baseball games is definitely good for UCF.
Well, Knights with, 39 runs and a sweep of Siena, 7 more here, 46 runs, giving up 5. Not bad. Bryant coming to town. So we will see what the Knights do. They got 4 games in 4 days because this Missouri game got pushed to Wednesday. But that's just the story from baseball. You say you hadn't heard.
No, I've been busy
any
all week.
controversy.
My email has been I haven't checked email all week. Have I missed anything?
You missed some interesting information from the ticket department. Some veiled threats, some not calling it that, about your ticket distribution, all of you handing tickets off to your uncle and such, and BYU fans. And anyway, there's a try by Terry Mohajir to clean up on aisle 4. I think he may have spilled some more things as part of his cleanup. What do you make of all of this? This is not what you want coming a week after a football media availability with Scott Frost, about 2 weeks away from the start of spring camp, and UCF in the news for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, look, Trace, I don't know how anyone else can spin this other than this is a bad look for UCF, right? This was bad all around, from execution to communication to the walk back strategy. This was not a good look for UCF, and Terry's obviously trying to own that and owning up to the fact that this was not done the right way, and obviously a lot of effusive apologies, but it's self-inflicted. It's not the kind of thing you want to see. And you'd hope that an organization like UCF would have this more buttoned up, be more playful with this, have more things kind of thought through. And it sort of felt like this kind of came out of nowhere, caught everyone by surprise. And then it was just catch up after that. And, once things get out of the, once the toothpaste out of the tube, what are you going to do? I think UCF was a little slow in their response, and they let 24 hours of anger and confusion kind of stir up, and that's what sort of makes a controversy these days. And we live in a society, it's kind of a microwave outrage society, Trace. People want to be outraged, and UCF gave them a really good thing to be outraged about, and then let it sit there for 24 36 hours, and then now is slowly trying to walk that back and trying to share more about what the intent of the entire conversation was, which I think is probably lost in all this, right? Frankly, I don't know how many people are mad about the actual situation. I think they're more disappointed and frustrated in the communication and the response.
Final score from John Juliano Park, 7-1. Knights close things out. I think the communication strategy also lacking somewhat here. What was the plan? And it's somewhat contradictory, Adam. The TDT money, the $90+ million UCF got for saying that they were going to get fans here visiting from across the Big 12 cities, spending nights in hotels. Well, where do you think those fans are going to buy tickets from, right? And UCF fans are going to sell off their tickets. There's only a couple of thousand in the allotment. There's a strategy in communications. Tell it early, tell it all, tell it yourself. a well thought out plan here before the rollout of this would have been better. You mentioned rapid response, not so rapid, and there are many more questions than answers. You see Terry Mohajir's statement to Night Nation and season ticket holders. My favorite, though, of course, is that you can appeal this. I haven't seen anyone's appeal denied. I don't know who is part of this kangaroo court that is assessing whether you might not be able to relocate your seats. And the fact that we're talking about these sorts of things does show you that the message has gotten off track throughout the week. I know UCF's trying to move on from it, but you get the feeling, though, it cemented some feelings that some fans have in questioning Terry Mohajir, fair or unfair. There are obviously things that he has done successfully, but still some people are chapped about, the Gus Malzahn experience and something like this. It may be a little bit more challenging for him to overcome.
Yeah, this becomes the and but moment, right? Like, you already maybe had a predisposed thought process about certain things, and this kind of pops in. And if you're inclined to be disappointed in certain things with UCF, this is just one more log on the fire that you can kind of point to. And it's funny, Terry is. I think he's doing a really nice job of taking the bullets, right? I think he had a phrase like, "I'm in charge, the buck stops with me," right? Look, I work at a large corporation. I've said that from my employees before, and what that's code for is, I didn't know what was going on. My team screwed this up, but I'm going to be here and be accountable and take the bullets for it. And that's what it sounded like Terry was doing. And so I hope what this does for UCF is helps them sort of recenter how it is they think about these things, recenter how it is that, that things are put together, who's brought it on this. That initial email trace had a lot of people upset. I think the verbiage, the tone was off-putting for some. Robert's in the chat talking about there was mention of revocation of some point in time. UCF's walking that back a little bit. That to me read like, and you're in the comms business, that's what you do for fun in your spare time. That read like an email that wasn't vetted through somebody with a comms background. That read like an email of somebody who tried to put down an iron fist, which is not what you want to do for some of your your longest tenured donors. I think probably the biggest slap in the face, I think, for a lot of people, Trace, is that people who were 25, 20, 15 plus year season ticket holders had to then call and lobby to keep their tickets versus that being the other way around. I think that's a really bad look for UCF to basically say, hey, you can appeal 25-year season ticket holder. Just tell us why you gave the tickets to Aunt Mildred and you're good. That's not the way you want to operate customer service. But I have a revolutionary solution, Trace. Are you ready for my solution?
I can't wait.
I think there is a lot of folks who think there's been a bit of a disconnect around UCF and Joe fan, right? The common fan, not the shareholders, but the common fan. I think UCF needs to create a 10-person sort of a test group, a 10-person fan focus group where they can convene like a grand jury and look at and talk through some of these things and say, what are we missing if we do this? What are we missing if we do that? I think there's a connection point missing between UCF sometimes and the fan base. I think that the shareholders argue that if you want to. I think they get a lot of face time, but give me a 10-person fan focused panel, bring them in once a month, bring them your ideas, ask them to give you some feedback, some solutions, have a collaborative conversation versus dictating down to the fan base and by a lot of people's accounts kind of snubbing your nose at them in that first email.
Well, you also have to be prepared to take recommendations from fans and act on them. And that sometimes is a disconnect point. Take the opener for baseball and people wait in line for a hot dog, right? How many times have we talked about hot dogs in this program? From ones that ones that you couldn't get up in the cabana, and maybe ones that were deemed unhealthy by the health department. I mean, it seems to be lingering issues. You're going to listen to fans and an advisory council of sorts. You need to be prepared to act on those things. I don't think it's a bad idea. And they do get input. They certainly have gotten an earful over the last few days. And there are a lot of talented people in athletics that know what they're doing. Maybe the internal communications would stand to benefit as well from a little more conversation.
Yeah, look, I think there has to be a better strategy. This one feels like it, the way I'm interpreting this, and if this is incorrect, certainly somebody can certainly give us that correction. This felt like, to a small extent, UCF was surprised by this reaction, surprised that all this stuff went out. I deal with data for a living, Trace. I heard it was a query error that caused this issue. Like I play in Tableau every single day for work. Like I get stuff like that happens, but who's vetting things? Who's looking at things before they come out? Who's a part of stuff? Who's running comms? I think there's just maybe a disconnect between how things have worked there, and hopefully, UCF kind of understands that. But I think UCF has a charge on their hands now. They have to make sure that people think that this was an anomaly. This is not the norm. This is an anomaly. This was a one-time situation. We didn't do things the right way, and we understand it. We fixed it. But I don't want to call it a zero tolerance policy, but you've kind of set the mark of like this has to be proven to be the anomaly. And if this becomes the norm, that noise is going to get louder and louder and louder for an athletics department who, by the way, tough time to do all this stuff when you're 4-8. If you're 8-4, this email lands a little softer. When you're 4-8, this email hits a little harder.
Well, of course, comes after a season ticket renewal deadline had passed, right? That as well. Well, we'll get a little bit more into this later. We've got some mailbag questions about it. Surprise. We switched to another favorite topic, player compensation and revenue sharing and all of that. We bring in now Dan LaForest, a registered athlete agents director of the Influencer Council. Dan, welcome into Sons of UCF Live.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me tonight.
Well, let's start here. Establish your credentials a bit. What exactly do you do?
That's kind of a loaded question.
That's why we started.
Do you sell tickets? Because if so,
yeah, actually, I've got about 20 in the back of the van right now. So if anybody's interested, let me know. But,
hey, now.
Whoa.
No, in all seriousness, the NIL world has been an evolution, and I kind of got intrigued with this because of my 17 years as a financial planner and wealth advisor. So, I've been around the game for a long period of time. I played the game at the college level, and the uncertainty of what it means for players to get compensated in a lot of cases, a lot more money than the average person actually makes at a very young age is something that really got me, excited, and also a little bit worried about mistakes being made that we see older athletes, guys that are going in the NFL, 22, 23, 24-year-old that are making. Now we're putting that same kind of pressure on much younger people, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And there's so much there. But, NIL, I think, is really a disconnect between the fans and what the players really perceive it, because what NIL was supposed to have been, as you guys know, is the ability to market yourself and to profit off of that. And it's just snowballed into something so much more that, now we're talking about rev share. We've had collectives paying players, but we've gotten away from what they truly are. And that's really the basis behind the Influencer Council is two things. One, they're all influencers. They all make a mark on the public, on the youth, on fans. But also the fact that we're professional counsels. Like I said, I've been a wealth advisor. Ronnie Bittman, my partner, is a contract litigator. We just brought in Courtney Shaw, who's a former Mrs. Florida, working with the guys' brands. You have a guy like Pat Nix that comes in and helps with events and philanthropy, a guy who's run events for 30 years. There's so much that is behind supporting athletes in their journey through the NIL process in their college careers.
In a relatively short period of time, we've gone from former UCF head coach Gus Malzahn wearing Sam Jackson's T-shirt at the podium to all of those terms you just mentioned, revenue sharing and the like. How quickly everything has changed and continues to change.
Oh, continue is going to be the key thing here. I think a lot of people have this belief that this is all going to be fixed in a very short period of time. And there's a lot more people that believe that this is just the beginning of the chaos because of the fact that, in my opinion, the NCAA has created this mess because of their inability to address what these issues have been for decades. I did a presentation throughout the year at the Florida Athletic Coaches Association and Nike Coach of the Year. And my opening slide was imagine if, and it was a picture of Brian Bosworth and Deion Sanders and Christian Laettner and Michael Irving. And you'd start taking a look back in the 80s and 90s, the personalities we saw in college athletics. It was abundant. And then you get into 2000s with a Tim Tebow, a Johnny Manziel. There have been such great personalities that have been basically told, you can sell our tickets, but you can't make any money off of it. And here we are now. Now you're in a whole nother world where, again, college athletes are being compensated very well And in my opinion, they should be.
So Dan, if I was a college athlete coming into UCF, for example, and I was a freshman, like a Tavion Swin, somebody I know you work with, who's coming to UCF, what advice do you give those athletes? What kind of roadmap would you kind of set out for somebody who's starting fresh into college, starting new, and kind of navigating this landscape?
You know, I've always looked at it as a business, and you're taking young people out of high school that aren't adequately being taught financial literacy, that have very little concept of what business is, right? And all of a sudden it's money, and it's so much more. If you know, our tagline is NIL is not a 4-year opportunity, it's a 40-year opportunity. Think about some of the things that you can do with money that can make a big difference. I love talking to guys about, you know, what are you going to major in? Oh, I'm going to major in broadcasting. I'm a major in marketing. And they're making 100, 200, 300, 400, you know, even more than that. And you have a 1.5% chance to go to the NFL. What do you think your starting salary is coming out of college with that degree from the University of Central Florida or any other school? The answer is $65,000. And really what gets parents locked in is the fact that you start talking about, oh, and then you get married and you have 2 or 3 kids. And anybody that's in our world, in an adult environment, you don't get to save money when you're married and have kids. You know, it's usually a struggle of a process to even do that. So an opportunity to kind of set themselves up for things that they really want to do later in life. I think that's what NIL really has given a lot of these guys. And some of these athletes across the country, they're making more money in college than they could even possibly think about the first 4 or 5 years in their professional career.
So Dan, how do you work with the schools, right? Because obviously schools, universities have different plans for marketing their teams, their programs. You obviously have a plan with your specific athletes. How do you work with the schools? Do you find them receptive to your ideas? Is it a challenge to work with schools? How does that collaboration work between you and a school?
Honestly, they've been very receptive. I think first of all, you have to respect their guidelines. You know, you don't want to step on what their intentions are as far as marketing or things that they have in place. That's number one, is understand what they're doing. Number two is, I think all of them have been very receptive because they need all the help they can get. You know, each school, I mean, guys, if you really think about it, college athletics has had to transition into something very rapidly that it's taken professional sports decades to kind of craft, right? If you take a look at how the NFLPA is set up, or you take a look at how the NBA or Major League Baseball, they have fine-tuned this over decades. College athletics has been thrown right into the fire. And in the last 3 years, they've got to figure out, you know, now we're talking about bringing in general managers, right? Because head coaches are just overwhelmed with recruiting and player retention. And then you've got to talk about money as a factor. There's so much involved in college athletics right now that it's got to evolve. Now, where does this merry-go-round stop? I think that's the biggest question, because we don't know where it's going to be. We know that there's going to be additional legal challenges coming about this. You know, the transfer portal has just absolutely become unglued, if you will, because of the fact that it's now been deemed an antitrust issue to restrict a player from moving from one school to another. You know, back when I played, you had to sit out a year, right? That's devastating to a player's career. You can't sit out a year and expect to pick up where you left off. That's a very tough thing for an athlete.
Dan,
where did you play? What position did you play?
I actually played, I was a quarterback out of Apopka, played at East Tennessee State, and played UCF my freshman and sophomore year against Coach McDowell and Coach Kruzek.
ETU and UCF have a lot of common threads these couple of days here with Will Healy there. But Dan, I'm curious. Yeah. One of the media narratives that people say is the NIL game is the wild, wild west. True or false?
Yeah, I think it is to some extent, because the fact that it's unbridled. I think there has to be regulation, but at the same point, I don't see how you can restrict what a player could potentially make. I think it's free market. You know, I do agree that rev sharing should be happening. I think universities should be contributing to the athletic budgets from a standpoint of player compensation. A cap should be on what that university is liable for or should be able to participate in. You know, I've talked to a number of collectives, obviously, across the country, and their biggest struggle is, you know, yes, we've been successful. We've been able to raise money, but at some point, people are going to stop wanting to contribute millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to this. So I think there's an equal blend of how this can work, because you do have a passionate fan base, especially University of Central Florida. There is a passionate fan base here, and they want their teams to succeed, and they want to have the best talent here in the university and on the field, whether it be in basketball, football, volleyball, whatever that sport is. Fan bases, and that's why college athletics is so exciting. We love our pro teams, but it is nothing like going to a college football game.
Are you working just in the football space or across various sports?
Yeah, funny enough, we just signed our first female. We signed a volleyball player out of Norfolk State. We're working with her on some branding opportunities. So, that's another area that we really want to expand in, is because is how female athletes are now being perceived and how they're being celebrated. And I think we want to be able to give some female athletes that same opportunity as well.
How do you make your money?
It's like any other agent type commission. It's what you charge for the services that you're providing. And I know that's been a great debate with some of these agents out there charging up to 20% of a kid's collective, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous.
Were you coming in at 19, undercutting them by?
Yeah, I was accused by that by a former UCF person, but no, not even close. I mean, you listen. The nice position that we're in is we are professionals. We didn't quit our jobs to do this. So we're not trying to feed our families. I think it's also a great lesson for these young people, because they have to understand, to get quality service, you also have to pay for it, whether it be an accountant, a financial advisor, an attorney. You have to take a look at what your needs are and how you're able to better your situation. And that's done through professional services.
Dan, a lot of our audience probably doesn't know this. I'm actually a native of Chicago. I was born in my first couple of years of life were in Chicago. I'm a recovering Chicago beef addict. And so when I saw that you're having an event with Tavion Swint at Portillo's at Waterford Lakes, my blood pressure just went up because I was immediately hungry. But this is a cool event for a few reasons. One, great food because I love Portillo's. But two, obviously Tavion Swint. And for those who don't remember or don't know, he helped author the kind of the first person letter committing to UCF in a time of uncertainty when coaches were changing, and is a local hometown kid. So tell us more about this event and how this came together and why you want to put this event on.
Well, let's first of all talk about Tavion Swint. I mean, the young man has been absolutely committed to being a Knight from day one. He shut down his recruiting last summer, even with the uncertainty of the coaching changes and the uncertainty of the direction of the program. He wanted to be a Knight. He wanted to stay here. He wanted to be a hometown hero. He was just named the 6A high school player of the year. At Osceola High School, ran for over 1,600 yards this past season and almost took his team to a state championship. But that's him as an athlete. Let's talk about him as a person. Look at that picture. I mean, he is a great young man, has a great personality, and no wonder the UCF fan base is excited about him being here and staying home, because he's going to be a great attribute to the University of Central Florida football program, but also the community, and that's what this is about.
So Dan, if I go to Portillo's and someone has to roll me out after having all the hot dogs and milkshakes and sandwiches, what can I expect from the event on Saturday? Again, Waterford Lakes, 315 North Alafaya Trail. What can I expect besides heartburn and probably 10 pounds if I go to Portillo's on Saturday?
I think you're off to a good start with that, to be honest with you, Adam.
Okay, great.
You're right. I went and ate to Portillo's for the first time, and I could not believe how unbelievably delicious. You look at it as you have so many fast food places to choose from all over the place, right? And they're not really. I mean, it's not heavy. I thought their Italian beef was one of the best things I've ever eaten. Their hot dogs, it's something, like you said, you got a taste of Chicago, and they've got 4 locations here in Florida. So, it's really an outstanding event, but the partnership is really cool because, again, to be able to bring a player out and let the fan base come spend some time with them and get to know him as a person, I think that was the biggest thing. Like you said, him penning that letter through John Santucci with the USA Today, him being so dedicated to being a Knight. That's what the fan base wants to do. They want to interact with players. And the biggest part of this if we understand what NIL really is, philanthropy. 20% of all ticket sales, all meals, their total gross for Saturday all day is going to a nonprofit of his choice, and he chose where it all started for him. Osceola Pop Warner.
Dan, the only question I have left for you is you got the Italian beef. Did you get the hot peppers?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the only way to do it. If you don't get the hot peppers, it doesn't count.
Yeah, and Saturday I'm getting the shake, guys.
Shakes are solid. No, that's a solid.
I've heard the shakes are amazing, and I just lost 60 pounds, so I've really tried to stay away from a lot of this stuff, but I'm getting the shake on Saturday, guys.
They're fat-free on Saturdays. Did you hear that?
I'm sure I'll be burning plenty of calories. We've got a few media outlets coming out. I know we've confirmed Channel 6, Matt Burchell from the Orlando Sentinel's coming out. You guys are going to come out. Again, this is that opportunity, and we're going to be doing the same thing with John Walker during the summer.
And we have barely touched the surface of this. We could talk about Title IX and its implications, and there are a lot of issues. We will have to have you back, Dan LaForest, Director of the Influencer Council. We thank you for being with us on Sons of UCF Live. Enjoy the shake. Thank
you so much, and hopefully we see you guys here on Saturday.
Awesome.
Right,
thanks, Dan.
It's a complicated issue, isn't it, Al?
No, not really. The food is fantastic. There's nothing complicated about that. You're a Chicago guy. Aren't you a Cubs fan? Do you frequent these places, Trace?
I have been to Portillo's.
Yeah. And you're a guy, yeah. I know fork and knife, but are we good here?
The chili dog is messy there. Yeah. I'm not a big, I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm not from Chicago.
Sure.
I've been there to see the Cubs, so I'm not really into the Chicago dog.
Okay.
I like a little more traditional. So the mustard, the relish, not my thing. But yeah, they're solid. They're solid. Milkshakes are good. Yeah.
Well, go get a milkshake, get a dog, and meet Tavion Swin too. UCF's backfield trace this year. It's kind of interesting who will be that running back. He may be a name that we're seeing a lot of. So if anyone's there, bring me AED paddles because there's a lot of food there.
And clip and save that. I know all of these things are in our archives, but once a night, always a night. Let's see. Let's see how long.
We could probably do that for a lot of people, but yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, his commitment is. We have to switch gears, right, and talk about the latest men's basketball loss, the seventh straight. Oklahoma State scored 104 points on the night. Anyway, if I tell you UCF scored 95, they should win every game. When you score 95, Keyshawn Hall, 34 points, a seventh straight loss. Let's get some insights from our man on men's basketball, Andrew Cherico.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Cherico, and welcome back to your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute. With a loss to Oklahoma State on the road on Wednesday, this night's team now falls to 4-11 in conference play, and this marks a 7-game losing streak for UCF, the largest losing streak in the Johnny Dawkins era. Defensive intensity and rebounding efforts have been marked for some of the main reasons this Knights team is currently struggling. UCF forward Keyshawn Hall recently came out on social media with a letter dedicated to Knight Nation, unhappy with the current play, that the team will play better and to stick with the team. Here is UCF head coach Johnny Dawkins.
And he just wants to win. He's doing everything he can to try to help the team, and I'm just proud of his effort.
A Knights team that was once 11-3 now finds themselves at 13-13 for their overall record. A UCF team that had built so much hype around themselves early in the season with a bunch of potential has lost all momentum, has not been able to find consistency, and ranks dead last in defensive ranking in the Big 12. With just 5 games left to go in the season, the Knights will do whatever it takes to get back into the win column as they face Utah Sunday at 4 p.m. at home. And until next time, thank you for watching your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute.
Did he just?
He did. No, he did. He did a roll.
Did he just roll?
Trace, can I tell you? I'm gonna take everyone behind the curtain here for a second. My favorite thing about this show is usually when I'm playing that part is when Ben Hazel pops into the green room here, and usually he pops in, he's smiling, he's doing this, and then he starts hearing Andrew, and he's just every time just starts shaking his head, and I can just see him kind of getting all fired up. So Ben Hazel's here, Trace. Whenever you're ready. If you got a fire extinguisher nearby, okay. Ben Hazel's here. He was so happy until he heard some of those commentary. The thing that threw him the most, Trace, I now convey. I'll share this. As soon as Andrew said Keyshawn Hall penned a letter, Ben did shoulder shrugs like I have. He just started the convulsions that came out of Ben.
Ben Hazel, formerly Bowtie Ben, now Blowtorch Ben, for his biting, searing commentary. I sent him this message from Keyshawn Hall. By the way, Ben, it was titled "Love Y'all and Sorry." I turned the floor over to Ben Hazel.
See, and like, it's the era we live in, right? You know, like social media, airing your grievances, I guess, assuming that we care is a thing that a lot of the younger generation does, because he's talking to us like he's BJ Taylor in his last season. The season's about to be over. Like, he just got here. I know he knows how much we love Keyshawn, but it's mainly because he plays for UCF. Like, he hasn't been here a long time to feel so indebted. And if he felt so bad about it, I was wondering if he could have wrote us a love letter, like after we lost by 50, as if that was the sign to say we're going to at least not do that again. We keep over and over and over giving up 90, 100. I watched Cincinnati play West Virginia. They didn't even look like a shell of the offensive team that we let them look like. It's like, it's us. And then I know we didn't have the bigs against Oklahoma State and all those things, but the bigs weren't the issue. They scored 104 points. Like, you can't just say the glass is the issue. And you're writing love letters as if anybody cares. What we would love to see is save the love letters and play better on defense. And he's talking as if he's not included in that statement, right? Like, you're talking like you're not on the team in the middle of the season. I'm over here getting juiced up. I'm in a great mood because I'm watching the Netflix Going for Gold documentary. Yes. Amazing documentary. And the thing that's so interesting to me is to watch all the underdogs. They're like, yo, it's KD. Lock him up. I'm like, yo, you're guarding KD. No, you're not locking him up. And they're in the locker room getting cussed out because KD's going off. But that's just the level of pride and the fight that teams just have. I don't know why we don't have it. Like, it's long, wordy. How about just say, I'll play better defense? I'm sure he'll probably got more likes. Like, now we're over here really just confused what he's really thinking as a current leader of a team and what we thought was the leader of this team. Like, that's the vibe that you're bringing in the locker room. And I know not a lot of people were just all on board for this type of woe is me type of vibe in the middle of the season. You could do that. Say you're going to transfer or go to the league or do whatever you're going to do next, but stay in the fight.
But my favorite part is he's talking about Coach Dawkins and saying Coach Dawkins has poured into us, but quote, we have yet to execute. There's like 6 games left in the season. Like, at this point, we're realizing we've yet to execute. I have a hard time understanding that. Can you decode that for me in basketball speak?
I can't. I honestly really can't. I have no translation. I have no relation. And this is kind of part of the thing. Like, hey, I was on the coaching side. I was on the staff, and I didn't think I was that far removed. But moments like this are when I realize I am very far removed. Like, you tweeted, like, I remember when I was a freshman, when I got to campus, Twitter just came out, not to date myself, but Twitter just came out. I just got a Twitter. I tweeted like, yo, we had a great practice. And my coach had my tweets on the wall. Ben's over here tweeting. This is in the fall. We had to run. And then I'm like thinking it was like something I said. So like I tweeted another thing. And then he's like, he's still tweeting. And we're back on the line. Like, nobody's going online to air their grievances, let alone like write love letters like while during the season and you're not necessarily playing the greatest. Like, you're not a contributor. He plays 40 minutes. You could change it for us. Please change it for us.
Ben, when I was a kid, my grandfather would say, if the student hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught. And I don't know what I think of that now, but I know I've gotten dinged on social media for not being more critical of Johnny Dawkins. At what point is this also a coaching issue with Coach Dawkins and staff? We talk about this game to game. We hear it from Coach Dawkins. They're not getting better. They gave up 104 at Oklahoma State.
Right. And I don't think it's a Coach Dawkins thing so much. Not because you can't be critical of Coach Dawkins. I mean, you could say the team is necessarily trending downward, especially when you talk about losing streaks. Like, that's just unacceptable on all fronts. And everybody knows that, right? Like, a Coach Dawkins knows the pressure that you bring to yourself when losing 7 games. Most players know that their jobs are on the line. Fans don't really like them as much when you're losing 7 games. So I know what Keyshawn's feeling, you know what I mean? Like, you're really sad and just people knowing that people really just aren't on board with what you've been doing. So we know where it comes from, but it's just wrong place, wrong time. And when you talk about what we've been doing, the games that we won, we just outscored the teams. They didn't really know the scouting report against us because we had all new guys. Like, we just lucked up with timing. First win for Texas Tech early in the conference. They have literally not lost since. I mean, they've lost a few, but you know what I mean? Look like a completely different team. Same thing with Texas A&M. So most teams that have had a chance to really digest who we are as a team, they've had a game plan, have been executing it flawlessly against us.
Well, why isn't UCF getting better, right? You heard in Keyshawn Hall's statement, we need to execute the game plan, and you're sort of saying, then do it, then execute. So why aren't they doing
and
what
that
they're
is something that, as a coach, as a person, as a player, that is probably the most frustrating thing when you watch this team, right? This is something that you've never seen from a Coach Dawkins team. Last year, again, we beat Kansas 65-60, right? We're down 5 points to Iowa State, and we wouldn't say this team was offensively as gifted as the team that we have now, but they fought. They fought hard. They played as hard as they could. Shamari might not make shots, but he's going to be on the ground. He's going to tackle somebody. He's going to try to dunk it. He's going to be playing hard. And when I watched that Netflix documentary, again, it's all about the mindset of the guys, right? Like, when you're giving up 104 points to Oklahoma State, it is the mindset of the people playing the game. That is no X's and O's. I don't know if you watched it, but I have never seen teams shoot wide open layup drills against a press in a Division I college basketball game in conference in February. It's just like, I can probably put any team out there and it wouldn't necessarily just go like that. Like, a guy catch the ball, throw it up the court, he takes a dribble and he lays it up. That is just, you know, I don't know how you get through to these guys. And that's the transfer portal. We're kind of seeing that mindset of things playing out. Because they're like, you see JJ Taylor, he looked like he's out. He's like, I'm, coach can give me 50 minutes. It don't matter. I'm good. Like, I'll do whatever. And it's just middle of the season. Guy gets 30 minutes. He's like, yo, guys are out. I'm getting the chance to play. You would think dudes would be hyped. You got Niels, you got Tyler, guys having the chance. Like, yo, this is my chance. You're just not really getting that energy from these guys. I don't know why. But hey.
But it's 2025, Ben, so we can't live in 2025 without blaming somebody. There has to be blame somewhere. So let me give you some options here. Imagine this is a pie chart, and you need to assign percentages of blame between these things, right? Here are your options: coaching, injuries, roster construction, we play in the Big 12, damn it, and strategy. Which of those 5 things would you assign most of the percentage of sort of blame how the season's gone?
Okay. 90% with how it's gone. It's got to go to roster construction. 5% to we're in the Big 12. and yeah, I mean, the rest you could put wherever you want.
So how, like, as you've been on the coaching side, right? I assume Coach Dawkins, sat down with the staff, and I know there's limitations, NIL, and you're trying to get players and who's coming to UCF, yada, 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 right? But you've got a big board, I imagine. You're putting teams together. How do you think Coach Dawkins thought this roster would go, and how do you think it ended up where it is? Because I assume he wasn't like, hey, you know what? We're going to play some games 100-98 and hope we win them. I assume that wasn't or maybe it was. I guess I don't know. Yeah. What do you think was the plan as he sat there and tried to put this roster together?
Well, one thing that people need to understand with even trying to put a roster together is guys back out all the way up until your first practice. Okay. So you can have conversations leading one way, talk about this, do that, sign this, sign that, and they just be like, I'm not coming. Okay. So that's one factor that's always in your head with any conversation, commitments, things that you're trying to do. As far as the roster, you talked about injury. Jalen was probably something that I'm sure, you thought would have been a tool in your back pocket to say, hey, Mikey, Debo, if you don't play well, Juice, Jordan Ivy Curry, if you keep playing like that, I'll just play Jalen for 40. Probably thought that would be more of an option than what it was. But the recruiting, the roster thing, like that's the hardest part of this era. That's what you're seeing, the biggest challenge, especially from any coach that coached before. I mean, you don't even have to have been in it that long. That change and the flexibility that these players had has completely changed everything. And then you got to talk about the money that you're being able to offer guys. Like, I'm not really sure what that GM conversation is like for Coach Dawkins and what he's able to offer guys. And that's now, you know, one of the biggest factors for how guys are deciding where to go to school.
How might this team have looked at this point in the season with a healthy Jalen Sellers?
I mean, it's hard to say. He's been out for such a long period of time. I think some of these closer games we might have won, just not giving up as many points. I think we definitely probably wouldn't have lost to Oklahoma State. Like Arturo doing things that he's never done before, but of course we're getting kind of used to that. But just, I think he would have helped kind of be a little bit more effective in the backcourt with Darius. I think they would have been a little bit more cohesive in some of the things that they're able to do, which I think would have helped us out a ton. But it's hard to say, like, is he like 50 points good at home against Kansas? Like, I don't know.
What's the light at the end of the tunnel here? Utah, Kansas State at home in the next two.
The light at the end of the tunnel is just getting some guys to understand that fighting and competing is a part of the game, no matter the jersey you wear. That's just has to be a part of who you are. And when you play the game of basketball, you are, in the end of the day, always representing yourself. Whether you get a minute, whether you get 5 minutes, whether you get 50 minutes, you're representing the university on the front of your chest and who you are as a person, and that being what you're contributing to the university and your story there. So hopefully that's enough to get guys to buy back in, you know what I mean? And just take a little bit more pride, basically, is what I'm speaking to. Guys having a little bit of more pride in just what they're doing and who they are as basketball players.
You know, we haven't seen a bow tie in a while.
No. He's up here. He's not even. He's got the bow tie closed off at this point.
Yeah, like I had a hoodie on with the hood up. Like this is a sad topic. Like I've literally been upset. Like these guys have really had me sad.
All right, well, Ben,
don't say it here, Ben. Write a long missive and put it on social media.
Or write an email to all the fans. They'll enjoy that. I've heard this week. Ben. All right, well, let's talk about some fun stuff. Fix the All-Star game for me. The NBA All-Star game this year, they went to this new format. Everybody hated it. Fix the All-Star game, Ben. What the hell do we have to do?
The only thing that'll fix the All-Star game, again, is if it's competitive. The only way to make it competitive is if pride is included. So they got to play one-on-one. I watched the Unrivaled, the women play one-on-one, and that's just what it's got to be. It's what it's got to be. If you don't want to play, don't play, but they need to have a game that any NBA player could play in, and they play one-on-one. And let that be bragging rights. And I think that will bring a little bit more excitement because I know we love the stars and all that, but them checked out versus watching, I don't even care. It could be a role player. These guys playing one-on-one, like seriously, that I think would be pretty fun. Or they do the U.S. versus the world, or they do a continental style. Have, the top guys from each country on the NBA teams that and have them play against each other. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I think guys kind of, with the money they make, they don't really see the value in competing that hard on what's a weekend off, a vacation for all the other leagues, everybody else in the league.
What about the NBA players on skates facing the NHL guys, and then model a couple days later?
I don't know what that's
NHL guys playing basketball, and people would watch this.
No, they wouldn't watch it. But the thing that I would say is, I know that topic of the NHL guys, like, the fighting and this and that. Okay, first things first is I know I had the luxury of living with an hockey guy in college, things like that. He comes from Canada. He played professionally, used to fight. And don't get it twisted, they're tough guys. But let's remember they are fighting on skates. Like you're fighting on skates. If we remember some of the injuries that guys have experienced from the fights that you see in a bare knuckle fight on ground, it's a lot more just deadly to your product, I would say. That's why
fair.
fighting is not in football and basketball and things like that. But you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely with that game that they played, that pride that they showed, that is what is most entertaining. And that's why I say the one-on-one on the Continental game would, I think, bring a little bit of that back.
All right, last one for you, Ben. And by the way, with fighting, Eric Lopez is in the chat. He'll remember Rudy Tomjanovich. Look up the shot Rudy T took that basically ruined his career. But all-star game, slam dunk contest, props or no? I mean, we're not putting a Kia in the middle of the lane in the middle of a game, but yeah, we do it in slam dunk contest. Mac McClung was fantastic, by the way. But props, should that be in the slam dunk contest or no? I need an opinion here.
I think it's got to be. So the thing that I think most people realize when you watch the dunk contest is that it's not really that great of players, right? And to be a dunker and be somebody that's dunking on guys, like, everybody's very athletic. Everybody can windmill now. Everybody can do between the legs. Everybody can jump. There's a lot of guys that can dunk from the free throw line. So, like, being an effective dunker in game is just extremely different than what makes a good dunker, right? Like a good dunk contest dunker. So as far as trying to see stars, like, you got to let guys use props. I mean, let the professional dunkers be included. I think if they did, you know, even allowed professional dunkers, Team Flight Brothers and all those YouTube guys versus the best NBA guys that we could find. Because the best dunkers actually are, like, even in the G League. Like, you'd see Mac McClung, but, like, I have a friend, he coaches for the Magic's G League team, and, like, we talk about it all the time. There are some guys in that G League that can jump. Like, they are freak athletes. I mean, freaks doing stuff that you've never seen before. Never make it to the NBA, but I'm sure would flourish in the dunk contest.
Next week, right here, Ben Hazel on hockey. Ben, thanks for being with us. Bring out the bow ties next week, okay?
Yeah, as I always close it out, man. Go Knights.
Charge on. We need a cam on Ben in the green room.
I don't think we. Well, yeah, no. I mean, I have a view of Ben in the green room, and again, every week he comes on, he's doing this, and then Andrew starts talking. He goes, and the visible look on his face when he mentioned Keyshawn Halls, I don't think I can replicate it.
Good stuff.
We love
let's look around the Big 12 now with Jeff Allen.
The first bracket preview reveal of the top 16 teams for the NCAA basketball tournament were unveiled last weekend. The Big 12 placed 4 teams in the initial release. Houston was seeded 8th, which would have them as a 2 seed in the West. Iowa State seeded 9th, would be a 3 seed in the Midwest. Arizona was tabbed 12th, which would be a 3 seed in the East. And Kansas was slotted 15th and a 4 seed in the Midwest, likely to change before Selection Sunday. This weekend slate looks like this. TCU at Cincinnati, 12 noon on ESPN2. Number 9, Texas Tech hosts West Virginia, 1 o'clock on ESPN+. Number 8, Iowa State battles number 5, Houston in the conference game of the day. The Cougars ride a 5-game win streak as they have a 2-game lead over Arizona atop the conference. The Cyclones are on a 4-game heater as they are 3 games back. You can catch that one at 2 o'clock on ESPN. Baylor battles Colorado, 4 o'clock on ESPN+. Oklahoma State visits number 23 Kansas, 4 o'clock on CBS. BYU and number 19 Arizona are the Big 12 After Dark matchup at 10 o'clock on ESPN. 2 games on Sunday. Arizona State tangles with Kansas State at 4 o'clock on ESPN+. And UCF tries to snap their 7-game losing streak as they host Utah at 4 o'clock on ESPN+. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Can you get relegated from plus to something else?
I don't know, but that Jeff Allen sweater looked comfy, didn't it? That looked like a quality sweater he had on there.
Cozy, even.
Yeah.
Who Said It?
Yep.
The newest segment on the Sons of UCF features our players from the Pegasus podcast, Bailey and Christian. And I like putting you on the spot to deliver the line.
I appreciate it. I'm actually ready tonight. This one, I don't know, Trace. I don't know how you're going to figure this one out, but here's the line. Quote, "The government was at its best at poisoning the prairie dogs." The government was at its best at poisoning the prairie dogs. You, of course, a Texas Tech fanatic. Prairie dogs big in Lubbock, as you know.
Some say alum.
I haven't seen any proof to show otherwise. But who said the government was at its best poisoning the prairie dogs?
Talking about their trip. I know they're planning to Lubbock. There's no.
Do you want some crowd help here? We've got a Bailey option for Matt Dolan. I don't know if he knows anything, Trace. I don't know if he's inside information.
Yeah, see, it's a 50-50 shot here.
That's how the math works with two of them. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to trust Matt Dolan, and I'm going to go with Bailey.
The government was at its best in like poisoning the prairie dog.
That's somehow that is correct.
You deliver the line very well, but I like the way the video comes.
No, I can't. I can't. No, I can't do justice to the way those two talk about however the hell that came up.
This week's Pegasus podcast, talking about Ticketgate. Is it risen to the occasion of a gate? Watergate.
I think we're gate. Well, I mean, gate's a conspiracy. You don't know what happened. I think we know what happened here. We just don't like what happened. So I don't know if that's a gate.
You'll find the Pegasus podcast right now on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. We mentioned baseball. Nick Williams off the top there, talking about the Knights' 7-1 win now over Missouri. Knights 4-0. They host Bryant. They moved game times from 6:30 to 6. So 6 on Friday, 6 Saturday, 1 o'clock Sunday. Then Tuesday, they've got FAU at 6 o'clock. So a stretch of games here. They're going to test that depth in pitching. You can also catch Michael Emptiness's article on our Sons of UCF website, sonsofUCF.com. UCF baseball breaks out the brooms in the sweep of Siena. He does such a good job on the social media and with his articles as well. A little history tonight at the softball complex, a no-hitter for Caitlin Felton. And let's welcome in the star of Around the Kingdom, the voice of UCF softball. He is Eric Lopez, just back from the complex. How many no-nos is that for you in calling the Knights?
Well, I was looking that up just now. I think that's my 13th at UCF, 13th no-hitter that I've called, and that was a fun one to call. And by the way, I'm just glad we're talking about UCF wins. I mean, my goodness, poor Ben. Can somebody help give Ben a hug? Trace, give him a hug on Sunday.
Knights with a win over Quinnipiac, and as well Pittsburgh in the second game, rebounding from some troubles out in Clearwater.
Yeah, big bounce back. I mean, you mentioned the headliner, Felton, 25th no-hitter in program history. Her first career no-hitter, dominated the Bobcats hitters, which is, by the way, Adam, I know you were wondering, I referred a lot of Bobcats today. I kind of shied away from the school's name.
I don't blame you.
Just because it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah,
but
fair.
She set the tone. Samantha Ray made an incredible catch, which I'm sure you can watch on social media in the top of the fifth with one out, diving catch in shallow right field, playing second base that saved the no-hitter, as it turns out, and set the tone for the second game. Sierra Humphreys with the leadoff home run in the bottom of the first, and Jasenia Lopez was fantastic. So this is, to me, guys, for UCF to be successful in 2025, this is the pedigree. Good pitching and timely hitting. That's, to me, the key moving forward for this team.
Knights with Florida Gulf Coast. Columbia, another one with Florida Gulf Coast. A lot going on the campus. How many of these are you broadcasting? Maybe some disruption in the broadcast schedule. Fans want to know.
So I got Friday night, UCF Florida Gulf Coast, 5 o'clock, Florida Gulf Coast ASUN champs. And then you have to follow it on social media on Saturday, Sunday. No broadcast. This is the only 2 days the UCF softball won't be broadcasted at home on ESPN Plus. Just not enough manpower. You got women's basketball that has to be broadcasted Saturday. Men's basketball's got to be broadcasted Sunday. So there's
they have to, Elo? These programs have problems right now. Who's clamoring to watch more basketball?
From what I understand, it's a Big 12 contract. You have to carry every basketball game and all the cameras. What's interesting, what you don't allude to is, so UCF's playing Columbia on Saturday and Florida Gulf Coast Sunday. We knew that. But news that broke today, UCF has added Ohio State Saturday night rematch from their game in Clearwater that ended in a tie. Clearly, Coach Baumel not satisfied with the tie, so they're going to play again on Saturday.
Is that a fresh game, or do they pick up where they were?
Fresh game. Although it'd be cool if they did resume, right? It'd be funny. But no, fresh game.
Bring Ohio State in for like 2 innings.
We don't have to, 2 innings. We don't have to worry about a tie or like, hey, we got to worry about the primetime TV slots. They're going to play a full game, and we'll see who comes out on top. So an extra game at it. Coach Baumel just doesn't shy away from competition.
Eric Lopez. That's good stuff right there. Adam?
I was going to say, Elo, obviously 9 wins for UCF softball. When they're on, what are they doing well? What is this team sort of going to make its medal this year as they continue to win games?
Well, let's start with Sierra Humphreys, who hit in the leadoff spot today, hit the home run to start the game against Pittsburgh in the bottom of the first. She had a great game against there. She's got a hit. She's their best player, in my opinion. Samantha Ray getting on base, and then you got to need some of these freshmen to have some timely hitting offensively. I don't know if this offense will explode like we've seen in the past with the Codys and the Dohertys and the Chloe Evans. Although, Coach Paul Malone kind of took exception to a question about the lack of power asked today on the post game there, talking about the fact UCF leads the Big 12 in doubles, which they have hit a lot of doubles and triples. So that's kind of their personality offensively. But again, pitching is going to carry them. Caitlin Felton, Jasenia Lopez, Isabella Vega look to me like the 1-2-3 punch for them. Get quality starts and then timely hitting. In their losses, they have left a lot of runners on base. I think back to the Ohio State game, in fact, on Sunday. They had bases loaded with a chance to break that game open. Didn't do it. Ohio State came back. The Liberty loss, which I know you were at, Trace, had a chance to break that game open, left a lot of runners on base, allowed Liberty to come back. It's a young team. I think the offense is going to be up and down. It's just what youth is, but the pitching needs to be consistent, and I think it can be, and I think that could carry them through the year.
Elo,
you set me up. Oh, go ahead.
Most important question, Elo. How do we get that polo?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Do I need to trade you a Suns
How do we get
polo?
this polo here? What are we working with here?
These are polos that the broadcasters on ESPN.
Oh, wow. Big time guy. Here we go. Look at me, Louie. Look at me, Louie. Here we go. Okay.
Just saying. That's a pretty big deal. So I'm honored. I'm not the only one that has this. Other broadcasters on ESPN Plus have this. I tend to show it off. Don't you think it's great? Look at this. I mean, it's a beautiful color.
Solid. No, it's solid. Yeah.
Logo.
Adam, clip that. Add that to the clip reel. Right
what? He didn't do anything wrong there.
It was good.
That's a good shirt. We should clip the shirt because it's like that hat, by the way, Pete Alomar had on for UCF football. I need that hat, Trace.
Eric Lopez, 13th no-hitter call for UCF softball in his career, covering them the 25th overall for the Knights. Knights winners over Quinnipiac and Pittsburgh. Elo, thanks for being with us on Suns Live.
Anytime, boys. Great job on the coverage of UCF sports throughout there. Thank you. By the way, I'm calling Andrew for gimmick infringement. I'm going to flag him. He is taking Chris Collinsworth material there. That's Chris Collinsworth's slide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm flagging it. I'm flagging it.
All right. A challenge has been thrown by Eric Lopez. Andrew Cherico, you have 5 minutes to respond.
All right.
Send an email to the tribunal and they'll get back to you.
They'll get right back to you.
Right back to you.
Thank you, Elo. Well, the awkward segue from winning to losing. Let's get to some news and notes.
Muhammadu Mustafa Champ, let's go around the kingdom.
All right, Adam, do you think the Knights beat Oklahoma State if Mustafa is in the game?
No.
Still a no. Women's basketball falls to 2-13 in Big 12 play. They lose at Kansas 63-58. Return home, Texas Tech Saturday at 2. That would be why you're not going to hear from Eric Lopez because coverage of women's basketball on the ESPN family of networks. And then Tuesday, February 25th, Iowa State at the arena at 7 o'clock. The aforementioned Eric Lopez and I, a part of the Around the Kingdom that we do weekly for Sons of UCF. And here's a clip.
I found him to be fascinating. I think he is somebody that's very honest, very candor in telling you, look, this is going to take this is a building blocks. We're taking it step by step. And I'm not going to deceive you on this. And I like that. I think that will help. And I think if I'm a fan, I got to appreciate that. Isn't that what fans always wanted, Trace, is your coaches to be honest with you? Whether you like it or not, whether you like the message or not, at least you're being honest with them. You're not trying to mislead them, right?
True. And we're always
very
honest
timely
with you.
clip. I didn't realize what I pulled. Very timely on that one. I apologize.
More of those insights right now on the Suns YouTube channel. It is that time again.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
Our guestathon continues. We welcome in part of our baseball coverage this season at the Sons of UCF, intern Andrew Gregg. Andrew, welcome into Sons Live.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Adam, I gave him the questions in advance.
Poor Matthew got screwed on this, and also poor Andrew. He's been in the green room since like 8:30, so he's enjoyed the last 30 minutes of us bantering about Elo's polo. But your time has arrived, Andrew. It is mailbag time. It's what's in the box time. I can't wait to hear you shine.
I love the polo talk, so I'm glad to be in the room for it.
Okay, perfect.
Let's begin with a hard-hitting question.
Oh man,
Andrew, at Rejoice Nights, does Terry Mahajer make it through this year's contract? I will combine that with at Florida Box Breakers. Is Terry here January 2026? As you might notice, there's some angst in the fan base about Ticketgate this week. What do you think? How do you think he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, Ticketgate is sweeping the nation, at least the UCF nation.
Well, unfortunately, it is in the news.
Yeah, the emails being sent out recently maybe would indicate that he might not make it through that contract, but I personally think he will. As the UCF AD, he's seen like some ebbs and flows, but such is with a program like this, and I don't think all of that can be attributed to him solely. I definitely think that recently he might not have as many fans as he did maybe even like a couple of days ago, but I think he makes it through his contract.
Who can't say that though, Andrew? I'm curious. You're a student. How much do you care about Ticketgate? I mean, you're a student. I know us old heads are all flip. How much do you as a student? How much do you think your classmates, your peers care about this ticket fiasco?
I will say there's little to no impact on the student.
Well, he just cut out this whole topic
on this front. I mean, I enjoy watching the banter online, but on my front, it's not as big of a deal because as students, we get to go to every single game for free. I just show up to football or basketball with my student ID and have little to no issues. So I personally it personally doesn't impact me much, but as soon as I become an alumni, I will be getting on the bandwagon train with you guys.
Get your pitchforks ready, Andrew.
Here's some information for you. You might want to study what that athletics fee is that's coming out credit hours, because you ain't getting in for free, buddy. Adam, what do you think? Extension here, longer contract? This is going to be a decision soon enough Dr. Cartwright and others are going to have to make about Terry Mohajir.
It's tough to say, Trace, because we don't hear a lot from Dr. Cartwright. So I don't quite know exactly his thought process on athletics, how he feels about what's happening. He doesn't do any sort of State of the Union, if you will, about athletics. I feel like I think we're already coming up on the final year of his contract. Typically, you don't leave lame duck years on contracts for people in leadership positions. So I would think either extensions, maybe coming soon if that's what's happening, or is this like Gus Malzahn where it happened 6 months ago and we just don't know about it yet, right? That could be a possibility. But I guess I'd ask everyone to ask themselves this question. I mean, I think with anything you do in life, you want to leave it better than you found it. Right. As we get to year 4 or 5 of Terry, has he left it better than he found it? I think that'll be probably the ultimate litmus test on what happens next with his contract.
I think I just heard around the kingdom topic next week.
Are we allowed to do that? I don't know what we're allowed to do anymore.
I aired off the top here. Didn't give Andrew a proper welcome here.
You didn't.
A little get to know. I mean, he's the star of Bouncing with Andrew. Andrew, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where are you at in your years in college and major and all that good stuff?
I appreciate. I think you did me a little bit of justice introducing me as one of the interns. That's kind of my official title at this point. I introduced myself as the Sons of UCF intern, but I am a sophomore at UCF. Obviously, I'm a communications major. I would like to go into broadcasting, so like sports broadcasting specifically. But a sophomore at UCF. I'm taking a little bit of RTV television stuff as well as like just general communication stuff. So just a little bit about me, kind of keeping it brief.
How would you describe your experience so far with the Suns?
I mean, it's been more than awesome. Everything that I've like kind of won for like in an internship like this, I was able to hop on with you guys on like late November, I think it was, on some of the basketball stuff, and then Trace kind of walked me through being able to like do my first on camps and getting the nerves out of that, and then transitioning into baseball and getting able to get an opportunity with Bounce has been awesome, and being able to cover basketball and like maybe not like a day-to-day sense, but like through Bounce has been really cool, and then being able to increase my role in coverage with baseball has been awesome. I really feel like I know the team even through only maybe a couple weeks of covering them so far.
Have you been recognized yet? I know you do a lot of bouncings at basketball. I know Savannah is now a bouncing regular on your particular. Have you been recognized yet as you're kind of walking around?
More than once, which is like a little surprising, but yeah, I have been like either by other students or even by like some like staff, like maybe not staff members, but like just people around the area, some older adults as well as some students, which has been really cool. I mean, a lot of positive interactions coming from that. So I have been a couple of times.
Signed any autographs yet?
I haven't, but me and Trace were talking about this the other day. He's still not charging, but my fee might have to start going up soon if I get one too many.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about Trace charging. You're all set.
All right, back to the mailbag. At 10-12 Network, Adam, was the Johnny Dawkins extension a mistake?
I don't think so, Trace, because I believe, and someone can fact check me on this. Usually I'm the fact checker, but I don't have the ability to do that. I think the buyout is relatively low, if not nothing. So if there's no dead money that you have to sort of eat if you want to walk away from the contract, I don't think it really matters. So if that's the case, I don't think so.
Where are you on Coach
I'm right
Dawkins?
here. Look, nice guy. I think he's the kind of kid you want to send your son to go play, or the kind of coach you want to send your kid to go play for. But something is just not working. And Ben said earlier, roster construction. He puts the roster together, right? We have these losing skids, so there's just something not clicking. And I think what happens is if you get rid of a coach or you want to coach, that indicates you think that's a bad person. But I don't think that's the case with John. I think sometimes it just run its course. For those of you in the area, Andrew, you may be even too young for this. Those may remember the Tony Dungy Tampa Bay Buccaneer era, where they just kept getting to the spot. They couldn't figure it out. They get rid of him. John Gruden comes in the next year and then wins Super Bowl with Dungy's players, right? Sometimes it's just a change of scenery that takes place. It doesn't mean somebody's a bad player or a bad person or a bad coach. I just think a change might just be what's best for that. Andrew, were you alive in 2003?
I was not, unfortunately. I
was
come on now. 2 years removed from being alive. 2005.
Unbelievable.
At Mr. Matt Dolan, Andrew, who will have a better conference winning percentage at the end of the season, Dawkins or Frost?
That's a good one.
And you had questions in advance.
What happened here?
Yeah. I'm just rethinking of these questions. I think Frost. I'll go with Frost here. I definitely think the losing skid is going to be maybe a little bit too much to overcome. At this point, it feels like we're phoning in the season in basketball, so we could drop to below. How far below can we get at this point? But I think Frost can.
Won't tempt anybody, Andrew.
Yeah,
add some more games to the 11 losses.
I think it's interesting when you guys mentioned coaches, though. With obviously there's a little bit of turmoil with what's going to happen with Johnny Dawkins this next season, but Keyshawn Hall actively stood up for him and saying that that it's not his fault that the players are playing so terribly. So I think it's something to say that the players are starting to come to bat for him a little bit, especially Keyshawn Hall, who's one of the main contributors on this team.
I would just argue that if they wanted to really go to the mat for him, they would play better for him.
Defense, yeah.
Riley carries 16. Adam, which defense is better, football or basketball?
I haven't seen football yet, so I'll go football.
Golden Knight _ the second. Which basketball coach gets fired first, men's basketball or women's basketball? It should be a twofer if you're going to do it, right? Just think so Friday if you're gonna.
I'm right there with you. Probably both. I would lean to women's basketball just because of how badly that season has gone. Unfortunately for them this season. I mean, we only picked up our first conference win in maybe a couple days ago. So I would lean towards women's basketball, but Johnny Dawkins' his seat is definitely not cool.
At Lonely Bee UCF, is Siena a real school, Andrew, or are they like the UCF's Washington Generals? You saw them play. They jumped out early.
Do you know who the Washington Generals are?
I'd like to say that I've heard that name before.
He does.
There's no clue. No clue. You know who the Savannah Bananas are? It's kind of like that, but not.
Okay.
I
do know Savannah Bananas.
There we go.
Harlem Globetrotters?
Harlem, I know the Globetrotters. I've been this been
all right, connect the dots, Adam. Connect the dots for him.
Yeah, I mean, who do you think the Globetrotters played? They weren't playing an NBA schedule. They played the Washington Generals every game, and the running joke was the Generals never beat the Globetrotters. I think that actually happened once, though, by the way. So that's the joke here. And we have to explain the joke. It's not as funny, by the way. So I don't know why we're going on with this question.
If you're explaining, Adam, you're losing.
There you are. We're doing a lot of that around here.
JP Gilbert, what is your favorite opera? This was started by our friend UCF Mike showing a little culture. The answer is Pagliacci, the Italian opera featured in Seinfeld.
Nice.
The 9th episode is 4. That is also the only opera that I am aware of.
Andrew Gregg, your favorite opera is what?
I would like to go exactly where Trace is going because I do not have a favorite opera, unfortunately. So,
are you familiar with this episode of Seinfeld?
I am not familiar with this episode of Seinfeld, or for that matter,
goodness.
I might ruffle some feathers. But Seinfeld in general, I've never watched an episode of it. So
Whoa! Former intern Andrew Gregg here with us on Sons of UCF.
Andrew, what's your music of choice? What's in the earbuds more time than not when you're listening to music?
It's a mixture of like pop music and a little bit of rap. I have maybe some anywhere ranging from Taylor Swift to Drake, maybe ruffling, maybe shouldn't even say the word Taylor Swift around sports fans anymore, but ruffling some feathers there as well. Maybe no more music questions for me.
All right,
do you have a favorite walk-up song so far at UCF baseball? Just a couple of games. We're still getting familiar with the songs. Is there anything that's popped?
Yeah, I mean, A-OK has been like one that I haven't gotten tired listening to yet. Hearing that one every time, like I think it's Lex Bodecker's song. Being able to hear A-OK every time, it makes me feel A-OK because the Knights are winning in at least one sport.
Trace, can you give us a quick verse of A-OK?
I can't.
And I'm not. You don't have to. Yeah, I know you can do it, Andrew. It's more funny when Trace.
All right, stay with us, Andrew. You got a question there?
I was gonna say, who's better since you're a pop fan, Andrew? Sabrina Carpenter or Olivia Rodrigo? Where are you going there?
Olivia Rodrigo.
I'd probably say Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talented young lady.
Sabrina Carpenter, pretty talented.
All right, it's time for the favorite
I
game.
Can't hit all the buttons here. What's in the box? Brought to you by our good
What's
friend
in the
Alumni
box?
Hall.
Stay with us, Andrew, to play What's in the Box.
No, because he doesn't want to answer the question. Is what the problem here is, Andrew. All right, here is this week's question: if you could compete in any reality show, what would it be?
That's a good one. What's that show with like the big red balls? Like, does that count? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Where you have to like run across?
Is that Wipeout? Are you talking about Wipeout?
Wipeout. Does that count as reality? Like, that's real.
I'll give it to you just because you said big red balls. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll give it to you.
I grew up watching Wipeout maybe like 5 or 6 years old, and I remember just like seeing that on TV. It was like appointment television. I love to see people run across those balls and then like not be able to finish it. So and just the obstacles in general. They had some competitive series of Wipeout. I feel like maybe I'm misremembering as a 5 or 6 year old.
Are you like a American Ninja Warrior guy too? Is that kind of the same thing for you?
American, put me in American.
Change your answer. Okay, change your answer. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to dominate the salmon ladder. Like, here's what I want to do, Trace. I want to do, Andrew, this is going to date you, so don't even worry about this one. MTV's The Real World, but with the Sons of UCF. I want a Sons of UCF only. MTV Real World. We all live in the same house for like 7 weeks with each other and nothing but cameras. I think that should be the show.
They didn't vote them out though, right?
No, I think that's Survivor.
Yeah, that's mine. I'd want to be able to vote people out.
You're going on Survivor?
Yeah, I could do Survivor.
You think so? Yeah. They don't have any forks and knives. How are you going to eat all the insects?
I don't like seafood. I don't want to eat bugs.
What are you going to do?
There's going to be all kind of problems. Big Brother. I think I can hang in Big Brother. I could be locked up.
Naked and Afraid, anybody?
No.
Mario for sure. Yeah, no, that's up. That's right. You have not met. We've got to get Andrew introduced to some of the Suns' friends here. Mario, Robert. Like we got to get these guys to meet the crew and really fully get the Suns experience.
Well, Andrew's already preparing for autograph signings come fall during football season. More bouncing, right? We're going to do some bouncing in the fall, maybe at football.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Bouncing in the fall with some of the rowdy football fans would be a lot. Maybe we'd get some funny moments out of it for sure, and I'd like to do it. So,
Adam, Andrew's Sunday, there's going to be some baseball in there, maybe a little bouncing. He's going to be bouncing between venues, really getting the whole experience on Sunday.
I've never been prouder of him.
Double dipping.
There we go. Well, there we go.
All right. So, how was your maiden voyage here on Sons of UCF Live, Andrew? Would you want to come back and maybe host the show next week?
Oh man, I mean, I've had a lot. I don't know if I'm ready to take that big of a jump, but I've had a lot of.
It's really not that hard, Andrew. It's really easier than it looks.
Haven't we proven that you don't really?
It's really easier than it looks.
You guys make it seem easy. I think that if I were to be put in your position, I might stumble more than a couple of times. Trace knows from my 30 plus takes. We won't.
No, never admit that on camera.
You know what's funny about Andrew Gregg? But we're going behind the scenes here. What's funny about Andrew Gregg is he often sends me multiple takes of the same shot. So he'll do his little introduction, and I sit there and I cannot find the difference between the two of them. There's nothing different. He says it the exact same. Like I can't even tell which. Like I literally flip a coin to figure out if I want to use cut 1 or cut 2.
I'm glad that it looks that way because I will I don't know. Trace will always tell me take 2 good ones, and I'm lucky that maybe one of them doesn't look all that dissimilar from the other one because I'm trying to nail down a specific thing that I'm trying to do. Maybe it doesn't look the greatest right now, but I think there's been a little bit of progression.
No, it definitely progression. The first, I couldn't tell the difference. Your first ever walk and talk, you looked at the ground and not the camera. I think you were worried about running into something, and so you were like, "Here's me," and you looked away. But definite improvement on all your stuff, man. It's been fun to watch you take something new on, like bouncing and make a connection with fans and do some fun stuff, man. So it's definitely been good to see you thriving and doing a great job for us here at this.
I appreciate that. And if we could cut the record from me saying the amount of takes that it took, I would very
no
much
one's listening anyway. You're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
If you could properly explain the difference between Dom Stagliano and Dom Castellano.
So I was hoping this one wouldn't come up here. This might be the one question I take an official pass on if I have one. I still don't even think we might have the pronunciations completely right on that. I need to ask Dom C. Dom C and Dom S. I feel like that might work a little better.
I don't think you want to call him Dom S.
Don't do that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Hard stop between the Dom and the S, I think is what you need there. Yeah.
And for the audience's purposes, let's explain something else that you're working on. 1-2 at the end. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I have a very bad habit at this point of maybe getting too excited after a take is done that I like and just moving a little bit too quickly. Holding a shot is definitely extremely important for editing purposes and just in general. Maybe keeping a shot a little bit longer than just wrapping and then immediately walking off. So something I'm definitely trying to practice, holding place for a little bit, even after I think a take went successfully. I get excited.
You should be.
And that, Adam, is I just want him to go 1, 2 in his head and not
listen.
move.
As the editor of such things, I appreciate that because there are so many times where you finish a great take and you're like sprinting to the camera, and I've got to find a way to edit that out. So your 1-2 has definitely made a lot of things better for me.
The sprinting is only holding me back from jumping. So it was one or the other. I've been choosing.
I'd prefer you jump. It actually may be better on the video if I see you like doing a Mac McClung over to the camera there.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I don't know if I could get as high as Mac does, but maybe a couple inches off the ground.
Andrew, you've been a good sport on Sons of UCF Live. Proud of all you're accomplishing with your internship with the Suns, and looking forward to seeing all you do the rest of the semester with us.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a lot of fun. The questions have been definitely like some curveballs at the end. I don't even know if you can consider Wipeout reality TV, but I appreciate you guys giving me a little bit of leeway here.
All right, awesome. Andrew, freeze the position, and then Adam will knock you off screen.
Boom. All right. I didn't count to 2 on that one. I hope he did on that.
He's really progressed, though. He's really more comfortable in front of the camera, and Nick are really taking ownership of the baseball beat, and I'm really glad for that.
All of the interns have done a really great job. Obviously, you've seen a bunch of Andrew, you've seen a bunch of Dwayne, a bunch of Nick, Matt Turman, who you don't see a ton of. A lot of photographs are coming from Matt. Some of the graphics have come from Matt as well. So all the interns are doing a really nice job, and it's been fun to have them with us, and they've helped us get a little bit better, Trace. Right? They've made us younger and given us some good feedback, some good tips, and so it's fun to be able to give back. And hopefully 20 years from now, Andrew Gregg is calling people old and hosting a Sons of UCF live show.
Older adults?
He said older adults. Yeah, he said older adults. He's giving us a thumbs up in the green room, which means either he wants to do that or he thinks we're older. I don't know.
We usually just end with the what's in the box. Let's do a little final word. What's your final word on Ticketgate? You got a final wrap up on this? You think this goes away, or do you think there's some lasting damage?
Regrettable. Needs to be put to bed and move on, though. Toothpaste is out of the tube. There's nothing can be done at this point. We can continue to be mad about it, but there's literally nothing that can be done. I think amends are trying to be made. Forgive but don't forget, I guess, is where I'm at with that. But it's a regrettable decision by UCF, and as I said earlier, their job is to make sure that this is an anomaly. This is not the norm of what we can expect from that department.
Yeah. They're not going to be perfect, but I do agree with you. Got to roll some things out right here, and we still need to see what's going to happen with spring football, if there's going to be any sort of fan showcase event and those sorts of things. But every mistake you make now gets just blown up even more. I mean, you see what people mention about hot dogs and lines and apps, and the tickets in the app, and all these sorts of things become much bigger than maybe they should be when you have a moment like they've had this week.
Yeah, like I said, I think the more you can find a way to connect with your fan base, and again, not just shareholders, and I understand why you need shareholders, but connect with Joe Q fan and Jane Q fan, and hear their feedback and get some input from them. Understand, the things that are important to them from their experience, why UCF's important. I think that may go a long way if there's some outreach that can be done from UCFAA.
All kinds of things in this show. I want to thank Dan LaForest for being with us, Ben Hazel, Nick Williams off the top, Eric Lopez for being with us, Andrew Gregg for being with us. Action-packed show, plus all of you. For Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Strelko. Go Knights.
Charge on.
Mackenzie Millen, quarterback coach, UCF. Thanks for watching Sons of UCF.
Do you have everyone that he's ever
It's
done
like the ninth
us?
different time Mackenzie's done a Thanks for the Suns, but they've all been different. They've all been player, it's been alum, it's been NIL
You have them all?
guy.
Can you put them all together?
I probably could, actually. I think we have no fewer than 5. I'm not even trying to be funny.
Really?
Yeah.